and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to a brand new edition of the Quinn Spinn. I'm your host, the Quinn. At least that's how I'm known here on the program, and at this point, really nowhere else. And I'm back here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more for another rousing and riveting installment of the official podcast of Underground Music Collective. You just heard Revel 9's All I've Become at the top of the show. That has been our opening theme song here at the Quinn Spinn since the great year of 2014, and it will be until the very end of days. And I am joined by a very special guest today, Ashley Dawson, who is the lead vocalist and flutist of Chancla Fight Club, and she is also the senior marketing manager at White Oak Music Hall in Houston, Texas. Of course, Chancla Fight Club, also based in Austin, Texas. So Ashley's impact far-reaching across the Lone Star State and beyond, and we have a great conversation today about what she has done to build that impact, how she has booked her own DIY tours, the lessons learned along the way. This is a great conversation, a lot of insight for you independent artists, and it's here for you on the Quinn Spinn right now.
And so we start every show by asking every guest the three standard questions. I'll let you have fun with these in your own words. Those three questions are: who are you? What are your passions? And why on earth would you want to come on the Quinn Spinn?
Yes, my name's Ashley. I am the vocalist and flutist of Chancla Fight Club, and I'm the head of marketing at White Oak Music Hall. So live music is my entire life, my 9 to 5, and then after, I feel very blessed to be in the position that I'm in, getting to learn a lot while I'm on the job at White Oak. That helps with Chancla, and then able to learn a lot from Chancla that helps with White Oak. So both of them go hand in hand. And I'm just really excited to talk about it. I love talking about marketing. I love talking about music. I love talking to you. So this is just a great opportunity.
Well, appreciate having you here and appreciate the wisdom you're about to share with us. And yeah, it's so important to keep in mind, like, as musicians, we're not just musicians in this day and age, right? Like, there's so much that goes into building a successful musical platform, a successful creative brand. And so you've done that, and you've had a chance, like you said, to feed one with the other and, use the lessons from one area to inform the other. And, that helps the rising tide raise all boats within your whole ecosystem, of course. Before we get into all that, though, I want to get to know you a little better. And we go back as far as you want to go, perhaps all the way back to the beginning. I want to learn about the formative experiences, the people, the places, of course, the artists that inspired you, that influenced you to embark on the creative journey.
Yes, of course. I've always loved music. My very first CD that I ever owned was Mesmerized by System of a Down, and I would always just listen to that while I was walking to the bus. I always thought it was really cool. I, admired musicians. My favorite band since middle school until now is Circus Survive. And anyone who listens to Circus Survive and Chancla Fight Club, you can definitely hear the influence in my melodies. And from Anthony Green, their vocalist, huge fan. And it all kind of started when I was younger. I started managing a street team for a band, and that was really fun. And then my best friends were in this band called Islands of Pear in Houston, and I started managing them. And so I managed them for years, and I also wrote music kind of secretly, I was way too shy. And then I had a friend, his name's Nico. He actually works at White Oak with me now too, which is fun. He was in school for recording, an audio engineer. And for one of his projects, he needed to make a song. So we took one of my acoustic songs and he threw it at the sink, and it turned into Good Looking Idiot. And we had a lot of fun with that. So we did a few more, and I never really intended on actually performing those songs. It was just kind of a fun thing to do. I thought I was way too shy and scared to do that. But one day, actually after I got sober, that's a whole other thing. I had a lot of free time on my hands, and I decided that I wanted to be able to inspire specifically young women to to do this. So I'm like, I'm sober, and I'm in a predominantly male genre, but I can still do this, and I'm going to do it anyways. And so I just started going for it and started booking my own shows, found a band, and just went for it. And it was the best decision that I ever made, just getting out of my own way and doing something that I've always wanted to do, but was too afraid to.
That's such an interesting point, because I think we've all been in those positions where, we'll almost argue for our own limitations or perceived limitations without even realizing we're doing it, right?
Yeah.
Was there kind of a switch that flipped for you to where you just decided, I'm pulling the trigger on this, or was it more of a gradual process?
I think it was kind of an instantaneous thing, honestly. Because I knew I always wanted to do it. It was just deciding that I was going to do it. So the moment that I decided that I was going to do this is when everything kind of just fell into place. And I got on Craigslist looking for band members, and Facebook and all that stuff. So, and it kind of just fell from there. And I pretended like I knew exactly what was going on, but I was horrified. And if if anyone watching this has seen a Chancla Fight Club show recently, you might not believe this, because I'm jumping everywhere. I'm in the crowd. I'm in your face. And I've really overcome that stage fright. But our very first show, and for the first year that we were playing shows, I was horrified, like shaky legs. I couldn't move. I was just kind of standing there. And I've seen a lot of progression in the years that I've been doing this now.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's a good lesson here. The words eventually and someday don't do anything for you. Someday never comes until you decide this is someday, right? And we all have those things as creatives that we want to just like pull the trigger on, right? For me, like when I was, thinking about writing a book, it's like I finally had a reason to do it because I needed something for a closing slide at a talk I was doing. And I was about to be tied up for the next 2 weeks and couldn't enroll any new one-on-one clients. So like, I guess I'm writing the book. And then you start getting into that process and it's like, oh, there are a lot more steps to this. There are a lot of things you uncover in that process along the way that maybe you weren't expecting, but that are ultimately really powerful to the journey going forward. So what are some of the things that you've uncovered in the process of going for it and just jumping into that role?
Yes, there's a lot of, I don't know if the word mistake is the right word, because every decision that I've made, even if it was the wrong one, has led me to where I am now. And I wouldn't change a single thing about where I'm at right now. But a lot of things that I've learned on the way is how important it is to find the right people. My band right now we're the perfect group. And it took me a very long time to find people that have a lot in common in terms of like writing, and we're able to like mesh together, and that's really important. But also having like a wholesome, safe group, and going back again to my sobriety, that's a big part of it as well. And when you're playing in clubs and bars, you need to make sure that the people around you understand and are supportive. And when you're on the road, there's a lot that comes with that. And again, also being like a female too in the industry, and I'm in a band with boys, and so it's a whole thing. So finding the right people is super important. And then getting out of your own way in terms of like, there was a long time where I was like, I'm not going to be all like cringe. I was like too afraid to be cringe and all that. And I'm like, I don't want like the people that I know to see me making these embarrassing like videos online where I'm like pushing my band, and all this. I had this like very negative view on like social media and what I know I need to do as an independent artist to push myself there. So I think just getting out of my own way, finding the right support, and finding the right people to write with has been very important, and lessons I've learned along the way.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, like that support network, you're able to refine that as you go and as you learn and as you experience different situations with different people. Like we all run into folks, on the journey that we're not aligned with, right? And what those opportunities, have for us is, the chance to refine our circle and refine our own values and go back to those values and really understand like, okay, this is what I want to do. And these are the type of people I want to be surrounded by doing it. And especially, going out on the road, going on tour, like you've got to be able to trust the people around you. And like, you have to know that you're all rowing in the same direction. And so as y'all have hit the road here, like, talk about that experience and what it's like going out on the road, going to these new markets and, having really just each other, in the process of it.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And it's also kind of, I mean, it's also exhausting too, honestly. It's very tiring because you're loading all of your gear in and you're playing a set and then you're loading all of your gear out and you're driving and you're trying to find a place to stay and you're getting kind of crappy sleep and then you're doing the whole thing again and eating, is difficult, eating healthy. So there's a lot that goes into it, but it's the best feeling in the world because you get to do what you love to do and you get to share what your passions with people from all over the country. And it's, I'm like getting the chills right now talking about it. It's the dream. And it's hard work, but it's so worth it.
And of course, you've taken the lead on booking the tours and booking these gigs all over the country. What can you share with other independent artists who are looking to hit the road about the do's and don'ts, what's worked for you and what hasn't, as they look to go out and hit new markets?
Yes. So how I routed our tour and then had to go back and cancel everything, which I can tell you about later, which is unfortunate, but was Facebook groups. Facebook groups are so beneficial. DIY touring is one. And you go in there and you just say, this is my band. These are the dates that I want to do. Do you know of any, venues, any artists? That's helpful. But then also going in, sorry, I guess I should back up a little bit. First, you got to figure out where you're going and you got to route, the cities, which I did in a Google sheet and with Google Maps. So I figured out like, what are the major cities? I know I want to go this way. I know I have family in Arizona, so I'm going to make sure I go around so I can see them as well. And we'll have a place to stay there. But so looking at the map and kind of figuring that out, looking at some of your favorite bands, looking at their tour posters and seeing kind of where they go and seeing some local bands around you that have gone on tours and looking at where they've routed and kind of comparing all of these. And that's how I did it. And I looked and I wrote down everything. This is how much time it's going to take to get from this city to this city. We're going to need a day off here because this is going to be too long of a drive. This is how much gas money we're going to need to get from this city to this city, kind of all of that. That was the very, very first step. So once I figured out where we were going, then I was able to go into those DIY groups and ask. And then like, I know we're going to Phoenix. So I find Phoenix music scene on Facebook. And then I write in there, hey, my band Chancla Fight Club is going on tour. This is the date. Does anyone have any suggestions on venues or anything like that? So it's a lot of research. It's a lot of communicating with other independent artists. And it's a lot of just asking, hitting up venues and just asking, because the worst somebody could say is, well, I guess the worst is a no response, which happens a lot too. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. And of course, as you go, you're building relationships with different artists, with different venues, talent buyers, promoters. How important have these relationships been to the success of the band and to your success as an artist and somebody in the industry?
Very important for multiple reasons. It's I've made some really great friends that just are fulfilling for my life. And then also it's going to help now next time. I already know who to hit up you know, and you build these relationships, and it's so important too to be kind, and to be respectful. That's very important. And show up on time, and, you know, do your sound check and clean up after yourself, and all those things are very important to, you want to leave a good impression on, you know. And I think this, like, you know, it's different for like Mick Jagger or somebody who can trash their hotel room. It's like we need to be respectful. So that's a lot of things, and it helps build those relationships with people by just being kind and respectful. And yeah, I don't know if that answers your question right.
Yeah. Being good citizens of the ecosystem is very important because, I mean, even in there have been situations in the entertainment industry where somebody had every advantage and they squandered it based on their behavior, and they squandered it based on how they treated other people. You know, there's a difference between, say, yeah, I think of the pro wrestling industry a lot because I grew up watching wrestling, and you look at what somebody like The Rock did, who had every advantage, but then did the work to turn himself into The Rock and into the Dwayne Johnson we all know, where he became one of the biggest actors in Hollywood. Without the work ethic and the humility to actually go to work every day and treat people with respect, and not just be like, I'm the best thing to ever happen to this business because of what I was born into, like, he was able to elevate not only himself, but, you know, so many people around him. And there have been other stories in that industry and other industries where people had similar advantages, you know, family in the business and, you know, financial advantages, but because of the way they carried themselves, because of the way they treated other people, they didn't get near to that level of success, right? Because of just how their own behavior reflected upon them. So I think that's a very important lesson. And thank you for bringing that up, because ultimately, you know, as independent artists, as emerging artists, especially ones that are visiting someplace for the first time, you want to leave the best first impression possible. You want to have the reputation of being easy to work with. You want to have the reputation of being a good hang, of somebody who treats others with respect and is always looking for ways to contribute to something greater than themselves. And that's really the mark of a successful artist, a successful creative, just a successful person, is somebody who understands that the world doesn't revolve around them, right? And although they are out there doing this thing, having this impact, you know, operating from a place of passion, it takes the world around you to elevate that to the level that it can go. So I think that's a really good point. So thank you for that. I think that gave us, you know, plenty of great insight. And then I also want to give you a chance to put your marketing hat on as well, because of course, you lead marketing for White Oak Music Hall there in Houston, and multiple venues, varying sizes, and I'm sure getting tons of artists reaching out, right, and wanting to perform there. And so what I want to talk about is, first, what artists can do to put themselves on the radar, you know, if they have certain venues in their sites, to provide value and provide an experience that venue is going to want to take action on. And then how can artists and venues and promoters work together to ensure successful events? Because it's so much more, right, than just going on social media, posting the flyer once or twice and hoping people show up. Like, there's a concerted effort, a campaign that needs to take place, and all stakeholders need to have, you know, a hand in it. So I want to give you a chance from your experience to just chat about that and offer some do's and don'ts here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the marketing yourself side of it is hugely, hugely important. Taking advantage of the tools that you have or the offerings in front of you. Like, for example, White Oak, we do a lot of locals only things. So we'll do a locals only spotlight. We'll do locals only playlist. And a lot of the times, if people just ask us, we'll put them on. If somebody asks us, we'll do a local spotlight. So it's just like asking for those situations, and then you're on the radar of our talent buyers. And I've seen a lot of in our, you know, our show emails, you know, artist teams asking who do you think makes sense for this, you know, and our talent buyers handle that. But there's a lot of opportunity for local openers. But if our talent buyers don't know who you are, then they're not going to be able to suggest you. And something that's really important too is marketing yourself, marketing your music, marketing your shows, making sure that every single time you're posting about a show, especially if it's something like that and you get the opportunity to be supported on a larger bill, tag the venue every single time, tag the artist every single time, like tag the other artist every single time. That way the venue can see, oh, this person's hustling. And so then I'm going to reach out to our talent buyer and be like, this local that you put on, is they're going crazy with the marketing. Like they're doing such a fantastic job just hustling. So hustling and bringing value, and then of course just matching the genre of the particular artist is kind of what our talent buyers are looking for.
Effort goes a long way, and it stands out, especially in a day and age where people want things so quickly. By actually, going on the campaign trail for your own event, for the experience that you're creating, like, you're going to stand out among most artists who aren't doing that, right? And I think that's an important note. And another thing you said there that I want to touch on too is people can't help what they don't know. And that includes talent buyers. That includes the people at these venues who are doing the booking. And that's something that I've seen a lot, just in, booking live music and working with organizations who do. Like, a lot of times artists, sometimes will get upset where, oh, why aren't they picking me? They pick the same people. Well, they know who they know. And sometimes if they need to fill a slot, they're going to go with the reliable artists, the reliable people that are essentially on the unofficial roster, right? So the best thing you can do to advocate for yourself is make yourself a known entity, get yourselves on their radar. And once you do that, whether it's through the locals only showcases, whatever it is for you and your market, like, go ahead and just find that entry point and then show up. And like we said before, be a good citizen, be respectful toward other people, be supportive of other people. Don't just play your songs at the open mic and then leave. Stick around, build relationships, like all these basic things. But they're things that I think when folks are starting out, maybe they don't realize that, like, that is all part of the game here.
Right. Yes. No, it's very important. And something that I've learned also is that you can't just sit around and wait for something to happen to you. That's not how it works. There are so many amazing artists that are just pushing and pushing and pushing. And if you want to come out of that local artist, you have to do things that local artists aren't doing. So if you want to stay a local artist and you can continue to do the things, showing up, playing your set and then leaving, not reaching out, getting upset when you're not offered a spot, or you can do things outside of your comfort zone and you can stay and watch all the other bands, talk to them after the set. You can reach out to other artists that you like, reach out to venues, just put yourself out there and do things that you don't see other local artists doing, but you see some of your favorite bands doing, these videos of where you're talking to the phone, which I never wanted to do before, but I do now, and things like that. You have to act differently.
Mm-hmm. And that just reminds me of every talk I do, I start with two harsh yet simple truths. Number one is being a good musician is not enough, because how many talented musicians are there in the world, right? Mm-hmm. Millions of people who, like, if they applied themselves, could probably do something with that talent, right? But talent alone won't get you there. And number two is you must give people a reason to care. And ultimately, it comes down to how you connect with other people. And that means fans. Yeah, that means what you consider to be your traditional audience. But there are other audience segments. It's your collaborators, which includes other bands, other artists in the scene, which includes people you could add to your team, as well as partners, third parties, such as venues, such as talent buyers, festival bookers, who are making a business decision every time they book you. And so there's got to be some value that you bring to the table that nobody else really is, right? That is unique to you. Come up with your value proposition. I know that sounds very businessy to some of you out there, but it's what you got to do.
Right. Yeah. And it's just like being your authentic self. And that reminds me too, is when you go and you play your set and then you leave, you're missing out on the opportunity to connect with the people that connected with you during your set. That's when you're performing, you're connecting with people, and mm-hmm. when you don't stay and give them the opportunity to, connect with you afterwards, then it breaks that. So it's how me and my band will do it is after our set, the boys will pack up my gear and I'll go to merch and I'll get to talk to them, and they'll come over to merch table after they're done packing up, and then we'll talk to everybody and we'll connect with them, and that's really important. And then I think another thing is that nobody's perfect 100% of the time, but you can always make up for things. Like, for example, we have an online merch store that I completely forgot about on Bandcamp, because we have our website now. So we have merch on Bandcamp. Completely forgot. I was recently reached out to on Instagram, was like, hey, I ordered a shirt like last year. Is it ever going to come? And I was like, so I went and looked at our Bandcamp. I had like 4 orders from the last year that I never sent out. People paid the money, never sent it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, and I feel like, and it's one of those things too, where it's like, you check all these boxes and you're like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm working hard for this, I'm doing that, but something will always slip through the cracks. But you can always make it right. So what I did was I reached out to every single one of those people, refunded their money. So sorry that I did this. I'm going to send you another shirt. So I sent them a shirt, and I opened up my notebook to write them a letter and apologize for what I did. And as I was doing that, I stumbled upon, whenever I was writing songs for a new EP, the original lyrics, and my like little scribbled drawings, and how I write is based on syllables. So I'll have like a word and then a dash above for each of the syllables. And I was like, I think this is really cool. I think this would be really cool to share. So I just sent them those as well. And I was like, here's a shirt, here's a signed photo, and here's something very, very personal to me. This is something that I was writing, and these are my original thoughts, and the lyrics have changed a lot since then. And this EP hasn't even come out yet, but this is yours now, and I hope that you enjoy it. So hopefully that makes up for it. But it's like being as authentic as possible. Like, that is very personal to me, those lyrics. But they've taken the time to connect with me by listening to my music, buying our merch, and I failed by not seeing that. So I need to make it up to them and connect with them in that way. So I think it would be really easy for me to be very hard on myself for that mistake. But I think that as a reminder, everybody is human, and our fans and the people that care about us are human too, and they understand these mistakes. So it's just figuring out how to come back from something in a very like genuine and personal to you way.
Right. That authenticity goes a long way, because you're right. We are all human, and we all do make those mistakes. And it really is just a matter of like how we seek to make it right, how we take that ownership and that accountability. And I mean, with digital ecosystems too, like we're all managing so many platforms that like I'll go on the UMC site sometimes and be like, oh, I haven't updated this page in 6 months. Well, we're not doing that program anymore. Let's fix that. I'll be like, drop everything and do this now before anyone else sees it and starts asking questions. And it's like sometimes like things slip through the cracks, and none of us can be perfect. And, I mean, we have AI on automations to help us with certain things, but there's always going to be that human element. I mean, it's art, it's creativity, and most of us self-managing our entire projects, right? So like there are always going to be those little things, but good on you for correcting it and giving them a little more. And that's the thing, is like, what can you give to people as an experience, as an artist, that's going to make them remember you? I think there's a really powerful lesson. And whether that's in your live show, whether that's showing up to their show, I think it's so underrated, just going out to shows that aren't your own and building relationships and like being a participant in the scene. I think we met at South by Southwest, and like for the entire week, like you're running around Austin, just like meeting all the people. And even when you're tired, it's like, you've got to just drag yourself out the door and do it. But it's so worth it, because ultimately, like, that's where these conversations, that's what this episode came from, right? Was us both going to that event and chatting for a couple minutes and following up. Like, there's a lot of power in just going out, and participating. And again, it's all about finding good ways to be a good citizen within the larger ecosystem.
Yes, and following up too. That's something that's like, because you can meet someone, you can connect with them, but if you don't follow up, then what, and just like
Right.
getting on a phone call, and just like, how are you? And just like making sure you're staying engaged and connected with people and following up. It's really important. I've experienced stuff too as an artist where I've had like bigger bands we've played with be like, oh my gosh, we want to take you on tour, blah, blah. And then I just sit and wait and I'm like, where are they? They never reached back out. And my mistake was I didn't follow up, and I should have. And those are just lessons that you kind of learn along the way. But I really love that concept too, because that's how we got here.
Yeah, yeah. And like the worst you're going to hear is probably not even no. It'll just be no answer. And but it's that, what is it, Michael Jordan or Wayne Gretzky? I forget which one. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So shoot them, shoot the shots, just reach out, follow up. And it's like, what's meant to be will be. And I think just that acceptance of like, what does come through in those collaborations, in those conversations, like, that's where you're meant to go right now. And it's exciting because, again, you get to, somewhere like Austin for South by Southwest, and there's so many conversations happening. And there's no way 100% of them are going to lead to a collaboration or a follow-up. People get busy, and, people kind of ride the momentum of certain conversations over others sometimes, based on timing and, where they're at, and what they're trying to build. But ultimately, like, you get into environments and you have conversations, and you have to keep those conversations going. And all of us can do our part in that. It doesn't do any good to just kind of sit there and be like, why hasn't so-and-so reached out? Because so-and-so is busy too. So if you're thinking of it, if you're thinking, why haven't they reached out? That's the moment for you to go ahead and reach out.
Exactly. Yep. That's true. And it's like, there's a lot of, I feel like every day is an exciting day because you can wake up and never know what's going to happen too. Like you can follow up with somebody and then you don't hear from them for a while. And then you wake up that day and you get that follow up. Or every single day you're pushing your music and you're on Instagram and you're connecting with people, but you don't feel like anything's happening. And then you wake up and you get a phone call that day. And that's what happened with Chancla too. It's like there was a lot of, we got to play with state champs. We were pushing ourselves constantly on socials, but it can be draining, it's like, and I'm like, nothing's happening. And it's just, we keep playing the same shows and, whatever, woe is me. And then one day, just completely out of nowhere, we had an agent hit us up who found us somehow, called, asked us to play with state champs. From there, we got to play So What Fest. And it's just like, you never know. You can literally wake up tomorrow and you can get a call like that, but you have to keep pushing, even when that feeling, like I was just explaining earlier, where I'm like, I've been doing this for years and I don't know what else I can be doing differently. It's like, that's very normal, but you just have to push through those and keep doing it, because if you don't give up, then you will succeed. The only way you're going to fail is if you stop trying.
Absolutely. And yeah, those things can come through months later, right? Like you might send an email or inquire about something, like, and then a few months later, after you've already assumed it's not going to happen, you get an email saying it's going to happen. That's what happened for me in South by. I went through the panel picker process. It was, I want to say, July of last year, and I submitted. I'm like, I didn't expect to get in, right? I was just like, all right, my name will be in their system, and cool, maybe in a couple of years. And I didn't hear anything the rest of the summer. I'm like, all right, it's probably not happening this year. And then October, I get an email saying, hey, we're still considering you. You've made like the final round, essentially. And then they give you the email to reply to with any questions. So, I did. And I just said, hey, like, thanks for the update. If you need anything else from me, by the way, I'll be doing the talk in New Orleans next week if you're going to be there. And then it didn't even take that, because the next day I got an email saying, hey, we'd love to see your talk as a workshop. And then the next day we got on the phone, and within 10 minutes, it was a done deal. And all on this thing that I assumed wasn't going to happen in 2025, right? Yeah. I thought, maybe a year or two, maybe I've got to establish myself as a speaker more. I just got to keep going. But that's the thing is no matter what, like you ask about the thing and then you do still have to keep going. Like don't sit and wait for that one opportunity. Keep building other opportunities because the more seeds you plant, the more have a chance to grow.
Exactly. I love that. That's so inspiring because it's really hard to when you put yourself out there and you don't hear back and it's like, oh, bummer. But you never know. And it did happen for you, So it's just, that's such an inspiring story.
Yeah. And I think, we all have those moments too, where, something came through and it led to something amazing. And from there, it's how do you keep that momentum going? And how do you keep that momentum going while also giving enough to yourself? Like that's been the post South by challenge for me is like, all right, all this great stuff's happening, but I also still need to attend to the life that I had before with Dawson. Like they both exist concurrently. And so as y'all have seen bigger opportunities too, how do you keep it in balance? How do you balance out, continuing that momentum, continuing that push for Chancla, as well as everything else that you're involved in, while also making sure that you're giving enough to yourself?
Yes, that's a lot of teamwork. My band is really, really great at kind of splitting things up. And that's been really helpful where it's like you can't all fall on one person. So we have our drummer who he's been in charge of like merch and like organizing the money and art, EP art, and all that kind of stuff. And we have our guitarist Ross. He does the channel on our Instagram, and then our bassist Mark. He's in charge of content and figuring out when we're gonna like do content, where we're gonna do it, what we're gonna do that day. So it's like. And then I'll do the booking and the website and then the social posts and all that. And it's like having everyone involved, which wasn't a thing before. And it goes back to finding the right people and the people that you trust too, to, especially since I've been doing the socials and everything for years, I got to trust Ross to give him the channel. And I do. I trust all of them 100% and they trust me. So it's like that's part of it is when on the band side is everyone working as a team and everyone being aligned in their goals. And then just continuing to push. And I won't lie, sometimes I'm drained after work. It's peak touring season and I'm like, and it's lawn season and I've got a million shows and a million things to do and I'm on calls all day and I'm tired, but then I can text Justin and be like, Justin, I'm exhausted. Can you help me figure out what to say to Phil, our producer, about this mix? This is the best way I can describe it. Can you help me reword this? And just being able to like lean on your people and understanding that it's, the same. We all have the same goal. And then also the other people, like my partner, his name's John. He's incredible. And I lean on him a lot too. And he helps me with anything that I need with Chancla or with White Oak or with life, like making me breakfast or anything. Just like having a good support system to kind of help and who understands everything that goes into it is really important.
Absolutely. And I think another lesson in that is none of us can do it alone. And I think you get to a certain point, and that point happens pretty quickly if you're doing your diligence where, it's more work than one person could feasibly do and do well. Right. So having that team and having people who can also like fill the holes, right? Like, because none of us are great at absolutely everything. So, having people on your team that can fill those holes allows you to play your strengths as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
So let's talk about Chancla. I want to know what's going on with the band right now. You've got an upcoming show, of course, in Austin there on May 19th. So that's coming up quick. But how's 2025 shaping up for you so far?
Really great, really exciting. We have a new EP releasing this summer. So we've been doing a lot of content. It's been really fun and just organized. There's so much that goes into it. Like so much that goes into it. Right now we're in the mix notes phase with our producer, Phil Odom, who is incredible with Bad Wolf Recordings here in Austin. Incredible guy. But yeah, there's just a lot that goes into it, like the EP release party, the EP release show, the EP like merch. We're gonna do like a little Texas tour around it as well, and like it's just a lot of stuff to do, but it's so fun. Also building our content bank. We want to make sure we have like at least 50 pieces of content before we release anything. So doing a lot of that, and yeah, so that'll be coming out this summer. And then yeah, we have a show with Strawberry Girls and Euphonia May 19th at Come and Take It, so that's gonna be really fun. And actually tonight we're all going on a writing retreat, 3 hours away at a river house, and we're just going to write the whole weekend, and it's going to be so fun. So hopefully more songs after this EP as well.
So let's talk about the EP real quick too. What can we expect sonically? Because there are a lot of different elements that play in your sound. You know, having a chance to listen through and just hearing like the hard rock influence, the prog rock influence, and there's like this pop sensibility, this alternative sensibility that ties it all together. What can we expect musically here from the new songs?
This EP is a little harder, I guess, like more rock, a little like darker. But we also have, but it's a little bit more catchy. Just like harder instrumentation, but the lyrics and the melodies are more poppy-ish. It's a lot of fun. It's the first time that this group has written, so it sounds different than what we put out before because it was different writers. So this time it's going to be us, and we dabbled with the idea of calling the EP just Chancla Fight Club, because for the first time it is Chancla Fight Club. It used to be Nico and me writing, and then Lace, our latest single, was a couple of the new guys and our producer Phil, but now it's the whole band. And so I think it's really special. I think it's the most accessible music we've written so far, but it still has our like Chancla Fight Club uniqueness to it. So I'm really excited. I'll send you some stuff whenever we get the masters back. I'll shoot them over if you want to listen.
Yeah, please do. Would love to hear it. Would love to get it out on EOMC as well. So stay tuned for new music from Chancla Fight Club coming this year, and plenty of shows and plenty of ways to tap in. A couple questions before we wrap up, Ashley. First of all, thank you for coming on. The big question, the big lesson, sponsored by 60 Plus Lessons from the Creative Journey, my new book out now on Amazon. If there's one lesson that you've learned along your creative journey that would have been so invaluable to your younger self that you would go back and teach your younger self, what would that lesson be?
I think what I really, really wish I would have done differently is I wish that I would have focused more on writing earlier. I just focused on, I just want to play shows and play shows and play shows. And I think that's really important too. But now, years later, we're fine. This is our first EP we're putting out. Everything else was singles. So it's like, and that might seem like common sense. It's like you got to focus on the music. But I just wanted to play. And I wish that I would have done it the other way around. So that's probably mine.
Ashley Dawson from Chancla Fight Club joining us here on the Quinn Spinn. Before we go, where can we learn more about you? Where can we learn more about the band online?
Yes, chanclafightclub.com, or you can find us on Instagram just at Chancla Fight Club, TikTok at Chancla Fight Club. So yeah, and then if you want to talk to me about marketing or anything White Oak related, you can hit me up on LinkedIn. And then White Oak is whiteoakmusichall.com, so you can kind of check out that stuff. Oh, and then also if you live in Houston, hit us up on Instagram. Like look at our locals only playlist, submit your music, that sort of thing.
Amazing. So plenty of ways to tap in, y'all. Thanks, Ashley, for coming on. I will be back to do the outro in just a moment.
Well, there you have it. I want to thank Ashley Dawson for joining us here on the Quinn Spinn today. Make sure you check out Chancla Fight Club. They have so much coming up, including, if you're in Austin, that show on May 19th that we talked about. Make sure you head out and support the band. And make sure you support the Quinn Spinn, 2 N's and Quinn, 2 N's and Spin. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Also on Instagram at Quinn Spinn Official. And at Underground Music Collective, our central hub for all things independent music, creativity, community, and more, umcworldwide.com or UMC Worldwide on the socials will take you to all things UMC. Want to invite you, by the way, if you are in Nashville, to Underdogs at the Underdog next Wednesday, April 30th. We've got a writer's round. We've got a networking night. It's going to be a great time. Make sure you come out. $10 at the door or in advance. That Eventbrite link is live now. But an Underdogs membership will get you in for free. Make sure you check out our Underdogs community, community.umcnashville.com. Yeah, that one's still UMC Nashville. I need to change the subdomain as of this episode. If you're watching later, maybe it's UMC Worldwide. But yeah, community.umcnashville.com is where you go right now as of recording. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Revel 9's all become. I'm going to take us out like it brought us in. Grab some muffins on your way out.